Welcome. Today, we're going to dive deep into a process that's absolutely critical for any service business: how you buy external parts for a customer's service order in SAP S4HANA Cloud. We're going to walk through the whole end-to-end flow from start to finish. So let's set the scene. Something you've probably dealt with 100 times. A customer needs a repair, but the one part you need, it's not in stock. It's a classic headache, right? The real question is, how do you manage the journey of that part, from realizing you need it to buying it, and then making absolutely sure that the final bill to your customer reflects the actual cost you paid? Well, that's exactly the puzzle we're going to solve today. You know, the best way to think about this whole thing is like a 4-stage relay race. First up, we have the requisition. That's the internal go signal. Then that baton gets passed to create the official purchase order. The third leg is kind of a double handoff. You've got the physical part arriving, and then the supplier's invoice comes in. And for the final leg, the grand finale, is the financial update, making sure all that crucial cost info makes it across the finish line and into your billing. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Every single piece of this process, every step, is kicked off by one thing and one thing only: a service order that's created to help a customer. Our first runner, bursting out of the starting blocks, is the customer service manager. They're in the Managed Service Orders Fiori app, and they create the order for what we call a non-stock item, that special part we need to go out and buy. This action right here, this is the starting pistol for our entire procurement race. The second that Service Manager hits Save on the order, something really cool happens in the background, automatically. The system generates what's called a purchase requisition. Now, think of this as an internal heads-up. It's not a contract, it's not an order, it's just the system tapping the purchasing team on the shoulder and saying, hey, we're going to need you to buy this part for this specific job. It's the first crucial step in making sure the buying process is controlled and on the books. And just like that, boom, the first leg of our relay is already done. The purchase requisition exists, and the baton is now officially ready to be handed off to the next person in line. So now we're going to move from an internal wish list to an official external commitment. This is the part where the request gets real. The baton is passed smoothly to the purchaser. This person's world is the Create Purchase Order Advanced Fiori app. Their entire job is to take that internal requisition and transform it into a formal purchase order that's going to be sent to an actual supplier. This is where you lock in things like your expected cost and when you expect to get the part. Now, this slide shows a distinction that is absolutely crucial to understand. Over on the left, the purchase requisition is just an internal ask. There's no legal weight to it. But on the right, the purchase order, the PO, well, that's a whole different animal. It's a legally binding contract with your supplier. It's the official green light for them to ship you that part and, of course, send you a bill. So with just a few clicks, the purchaser converts that requisition and bam, a purchase order is generated and sent on its way. The second leg of our race is complete. And now we have a committed cost from our supplier, which is the very first financial anchor point for this whole service job. Okay, the order is out in the wild. Next up, we're waiting for two really critical arrivals: the physical part itself and, of course, the bill for that part. The delivery truck finally pulls up, and our warehouse clerk steps onto the scene. Their key job here is to jump into the post-goods receipt app and confirm that, yes, the part has physically arrived. Now, this might sound like just ticking a box, but believe me, it has a huge financial impact. And here's why that step is so important. The very moment that goods receipt is posted, the system records the initial cost, the one from the purchase order, directly against our service order. This is the first time the real-world cost of that part hits our books for this job, and that is vital for tracking our profitability in real time. Pretty soon after the part arrives, the supplier's invoice arrives. So the baton for this final handoff in our third leg goes to the accounts payable accountant. Their tool of choice is the Create Supplier Invoice app, and they use it to process the bill. Once that invoice is posted, the system does something incredibly smart. Let's say the invoice price is a little different from the purchase order price. Maybe there was a shipping fee or a tiny price change. The system automatically finds that difference and posts it to the service order. This makes sure we are always tracking the true final cost of the part. No surprise expenses falling through the cracks. And now for the final leg of our race, and you could argue it's the most important one. How do we make sure all this super accurate cost data actually flows through to the final customer bill?
So as soon as the part is used and the technician creates a service confirmation, the system does a quick check. It initially pulls the price right from the purchase order. This gives us our starting point, our baseline cost for billing. But as we know, that might not be the final price.
And this is where the magic happens. When that supplier invoice finally gets processed, the system actually goes back and updates the service confirmation with the actual invoice price. This is what ensures you're billing your customer based on what you really paid, not just what you thought you were going to pay. Honestly, it's the key to protecting your profit margins on every job. This simple chart shows that flow perfectly. We start out with the PO price in our confirmation. Then the invoice lands, giving us the true actual cost. The system then automatically updates that service confirmation, making sure it reflects the most accurate cost possible before you even think about billing the customer. But I know what you're thinking. What if the invoice is late? What if it arrives after we've already confirmed the service? Not a problem. The system is designed for exactly this scenario. It will keep updating the price on that service confirmation right up until the very moment you release that item for billing. It's a fantastic little safeguard for cost accuracy. And, the system is always getting better. A recent update, for example, now lets you process returns for any unused parts directly against the service order. Plus, you get even more control over the financial details, like choosing whether to transfer the net or gross value. It's all about giving you more flexibility and more control. So let's bring it all home. What's the key takeaway here? Well, it's one single, seamless process that connects multiple people in different roles. The service order's transaction history becomes your single source of truth. No more guesswork. All that financial data flows automatically where it needs to go. And maybe most importantly, the whole system is built to make sure you protect your margins by billing customers based on real, actual costs. And that brings us to a final thought for you to take away. Now that you see how this cost data flows so automatically and accurately from the supplier all the way to your final bill, how could that change the way you think about your pricing strategy? With this kind of real-time insight, could you be more competitive, more accurate, and at the end of the day, more profitable? Something to think about. Thanks. Welcome